He can still write a verse,
Yeah.
but his verse always has drug dealer references in him.
Yeah.
When he's admitted to being a correctional officer.
Okay.
In order to be a correctional officer, you have to not have any criminal history.
That's right.
What kind of rich nigga cut his own grass? Why you out there cutting your own grass? You trying to save money, nigga? You don't want to pay for the lawn to get cut, huh?
Let me ask you
The
this.
AC broken in the motherfucker.
Let me ask you this.
3 things happened in a short stretch of time that turned the Rick Ross financial conversation from background noise into front-page drama. He was spotted flying economy class on a commercial flight. Questions surfaced from the watch community about whether the AP he was publicly wearing was authentic or a high-quality replica. And reports from multiple markets were pointing to tour dates that weren't filling seats the way you'd expect from an artist of his profile. Any one of those incidents alone might have been a one-day story. All 3 together, with 50 Cent watching and waiting, turned into something the internet is still talking about. Here is the full picture. To understand why these moments landed so hard, you have to understand what Rick Ross built. During roughly 2008 through 2014, he was operating at a genuinely high commercial level. Port of Miami, Trilla, Deeper Than Rap, Teflon Don, albums that moved real units and established him as one of the most consistent performers in hip-hop. Maybach Music Group gave him a platform to be not just an artist, but a mogul. He signed artists, executive produced, built an ecosystem around his name that pulled revenue from multiple directions simultaneously. The Wingstop franchise moves added a business layer that looked like what you'd expect from someone serious about building beyond music. The peak was real, and it was impressive, but the music industry went through a fundamental transformation, starting around 2015, that hit artists at his commercial level in a specific way. Physical and digital album sales, which had been a primary revenue driver for artists who moved units the way Ross did, collapsed as streaming became dominant. And streaming pays at rates that are notoriously low, unless you're consistently at the absolute top tier. An artist earning 1 million streams on a track through Spotify earns roughly $3,000 to $5,000 from that platform. Multiply across a catalog and the number grows. But label splits, publisher cuts, and collaborator percentages reduce the artist's actual take-home significantly. For someone who built their commercial model in an era of album sales, the income picture in the streaming landscape looks meaningfully different from what it did at peak. What appears to have remained constant while the income picture shifted is where the scrutiny comes in. The properties, the cars, the jewelry, the travel. These are not one-time purchases. They are ongoing financial obligations that require consistent cash flow to sustain. A large estate in Georgia carries property taxes, maintenance, staff, and utilities that operate at a scale most people genuinely cannot visualize. The gap between what the income may look like now versus what the spending appears to remain is exactly where the broke narrative was born. Then came the economy flight. Rick Ross has made private jet travel a core element of his public persona for years. References to private aviation are woven through his music and his social media content. The private jet is not just a flex, it is a symbol of the level he claims to operate at, a central piece of the boss mythology. So when images surfaced showing him allegedly on a commercial flight in an economy seat, the internet reacted with the energy of people who had just been handed the receipt they were looking for. Real talk, there are legitimate reasons why someone might fly commercial even if they have private aviation access. Scheduling, logistics, personal choice. But for someone who has spent years telling the world that private jets are simply his standard mode of travel, getting seen in economy is not a neutral observation. It becomes Exhibit A. 50 Cent was there immediately. His reaction was surgical, not just a joke about one flight, but a direct connection to the broader narrative he has been building for over a decade. He tied the economy flight to older inconsistencies, to the correctional officer history he exposed back in 2009, to the overall pattern he has been documenting publicly for years. That is what makes 50's involvement so effective. He does not react in isolation. He connects each new incident to the larger case he has already built. When he dunks on the economy flight, it lands harder because viewers have context, and 50 makes sure that context is always visible. Then the AP watch situation added another layer that made things significantly more complicated. The Audemars Piguet Royal Oak is one of the most coveted luxury watches in the world. In hip-hop culture specifically, the AP is a statement piece. It communicates a very specific level of financial arrival. Depending on the reference and configuration, authentic pieces range from $30,000 at entry level to several $100,000 for diamond-set customs. Owning a real AP at this level is not just a flex. It is a credential. So when people in the watch and jewelry community started raising questions about whether a piece Ross was publicly presenting as an authentic AP might actually be a high-quality replica, the implications went well beyond one watch. The watch enthusiast community is deeply knowledgeable and extremely detail-oriented. They analyze footage frame by frame, examining dial details, case finishing, bracelet construction, crown placement, elements that are difficult to replicate perfectly, even in a sophisticated fake. The commentary from people in that community about Ross's piece was not favorable. Ross never fully and definitively addressed these questions in a way that satisfied the skeptics. And in the absence of a clear, verifiable response, the narrative kept growing. Combined with the economy flight, the watch situation started painting a picture of someone whose financial reality might not be keeping pace with the image being projected. The touring numbers completed the three-part case. For a legacy artist at Ross's level, live performance is typically the most reliable income stream available in today's landscape. A successful headlining run can net millions even in the current environment. But reports from fans and observers tracking ticket availability across multiple markets were pointing to venues not reaching capacity, significant price drops in the days and hours before shows, and crowd sizes that didn't match expectations for an artist of his name recognition. Individual show performance is affected by many variables: market selection, local promotion, competition from other events. You cannot draw sweeping conclusions from any single date. But the pattern emerging across multiple observations made it hard to dismiss as isolated incidents. What underperforming tours mean financially is worth understanding. A major artist on the road carries substantial operational costs: crew salaries, equipment, transportation, accommodations, production costs, venue guarantees. These costs exist regardless of how many tickets sell. If revenue from ticket sales doesn't meet projections, the touring operation that should be generating income can actually cost money instead. And 50 Cent watched all of it, feeding the conversation at every turn, ensuring that what might have been minor observations seen by a few thousand people became stories seen by millions. Here is the deeper layer of why 50's attacks on Ross carry the weight they do. 50 Cent's own story is built on a foundation that has withstood scrutiny. He got shot 9 times. He came from Southside Queens. His vitamin water deal generated a reported $60 to $100 million. His power television empire is documented and verifiable. When he calls someone out for not being who they claim to be, he speaks from a position of having built something real that can be examined. Ross's situation is fundamentally different because the foundation of his brand, the drug lord aesthetic, the lifestyle claims, the image of operating outside the system, was always more constructed than 50's. That does not make the music less good or the career less impressive, but it means the image is more vulnerable when challenged because it was always dependent on the audience accepting the presentation without too much scrutiny. That is the real problem Ross is navigating now. The narrative has taken on a life of its own that exists independent of any specific incident. Even if someone definitively proved the watch was real, explained the economy flight as a one-time logistical situation, and showed that the tour numbers were being misrepresented, the frame is already set. That is how these stories work online. Once the audience starts looking for inconsistencies, they find them everywhere, whether real or not. Ross's options are not comfortable. He can maintain the image and hope enough new positive content drowns out the negative narrative. He can engage directly with the questions and attempt to refute them with verifiable evidence, which carries its own risks since any gaps that emerge could be more damaging than the current speculation. Or he can evolve the brand in a direction that doesn't depend so heavily on financial projection for its power, a significant pivot that is genuinely difficult at this stage of a career. What he almost certainly cannot do is make 50 Cent stop. This is not something 50 will trade away for any outcome Ross can offer. It has become a signature element of his public identity. As long as the internet keeps generating material, he will keep reacting, connecting each new piece to the case he has been building since 2009. The economy flight gave him content. The watch gave him content. Every tour date that raises questions gives him more. And 50 Cent is a man who has always known exactly what to do with content. Drop a comment. Do you think the broke narrative is built on real evidence? Or is the internet just building a mountain out of incomplete information?